Everybody, Jimmy Smith, quick post-fight breakdown of Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. I did as I often do, the post-fight show for SiriusXM till 3 in the morning. So once again, if I look a little exhausted, that's why. Good calls. A lot of people very passionate about the fight. I will do a breakdown of the Hooker-Felder fight, but I got to catch up with that because I had to do boxing last night. So a lot of people online are two things. Number one are kind of like, that I was one of the few people to pick that, if you listen to my podcast that I post here, that Fury was going to win. Great, but I thought he was going to win by decision or stop him late. I didn't expect the domination we saw last night by Tyson Fury over Deontay Wilder. Knocked him down twice and then finished him in the 7th round. It was his fight from the beginning. And much more aggressive, stepped forward a lot more, used his hand speed, bullied the bully the entire time. That was a big departure from the last fight where I thought he outboxed Deontay Wilder, but a much more passive boxing display. Didn't step forward with a lot of shots. Didn't seem to want to take the risk to take Deontay Wilder out. That was not an issue this time around. So, number one, that. I predicted he would win. I didn't think he'd win like that. I didn't think he'd be that dominant. Also, I tweeted that it was the most awkward fight I'd ever seen at the elite level. And a lot of people thought that I was somehow either upset that Deontay Wilder wasn't winning or that I was trashing either guy. No, Tyson Fury just has an awkward style. And then without an ability to throw and land the right hand, Deontay Wilder looked completely off balance. There was a lot of clinching. There was a lot of awkward punches, a lot of slips. Deontay Wilder was off balance the entire time. So what it led to was just an awkward fight. Not an insult to either guy. Fury just has an awkward style, and Deontay Wilder was just off balance the entire time. So a lot of slips and falls and pushes and weird stuff. The first two knockdowns, not that Deontay Wilder wasn't hurt, because he was, but he was way off balance when that shot hit him. The right hand dropped him the first time. And then the body shot, he didn't crumple from the body shot. He was moving backward and off balance and kind of tumbled back from the body shot. They were both good punches, but Deontay Wilder just had terrible balance that night. Of course, blood coming out of his ear. I was wondering if he had a ruptured eardrum. I don't listen. I turn off the volume when I'm listening to the fights, when I'm watching the fights, because I am studying and I don't like the commentary generally while I'm studying the fight. So I didn't know how much they were addressing it or how much they were talking about it. Certainly could have been an issue. I was reading today ESPN and stuff like that to see if there was any follow-up about a ruptured eardrum or anything like that, because his balance was just awful. Now, this is a guy in Deontay Wilder who started boxing at 20 years old, incredibly late for a professional boxer. And we knew he didn't have great fundamentals. He just didn't build great fundamentals because he wasn't doing it since he was a little kid. 200 amateur fights, all that. He didn't do that stuff. So a successful amateur, and then he medaled in the Olympics, but a short amateur career by comparison. So a lot of people talking about kind of the unmasking of Deontay Wilder, we knew he wasn't a great fundamental boxer. Fury didn't come out and expose Deontay Wilder. We knew Deontay Wilder had a great right hand, and that was about it. Good range, but he didn't have the skill set of a lot of elite boxers, even in the heavyweight division. So I wouldn't say he was unmasked. It just came together at a certain time where Tyson Fury is big, he's awkward, he's a good puncher, he's rangy, and Deontay Wilder couldn't deal with any of those things because he didn't really have the skill set to deal with it. When facing a guy who was maybe smaller, was shook by his power, who didn't have great fundamentals themselves, we saw the deficiencies in Deontay Wilder. They weren't so in your face. They weren't so obvious. They weren't so glaring. I think facing another big guy who is just as rangy and wasn't intimidating and stepping forward, all of the flaws of Deontay Wilder were just highlighted. Completely on display from the beginning to the end. Couldn't jab with him. And every time he would jab, he would kind of extend the jab and drop his head and drop his hand at the same time. I mean, you're trained not to do that very, very early in boxing, not to kind of do that lean and overextension. And he did that almost every time he threw the jab and could never make his jab a factor in the fight. And when he couldn't throw the right hand, that was pretty much it. I mean, it was clear past the 3rd round that, wow, Deontay Wilder's just not going to be able to land that right hand. And without that, he didn't have much. He had virtually nothing. I thought the final combination where Mark Breland stepped in and stopped the fight was not that devastating. I think it was just an accumulation of shots, and Mark Breland had seen enough. For people who don't know, Mark Breland was one of the most decorated amateurs in U.S. history. Won the gold medal in 1984 and just demolished everybody in the amateurs. A world champion as a pro, but really known for his amateur work. And great coach. I think he had just seen that Deontay Wilder didn't have anything for Tyson Fury. Didn't want him to not just get knocked out or hurt, but continue to look so bad. As I said, not a very aesthetic fight for either guy, but Deontay Wilder looked bad in this fight. So I think it was a smart move, and then if you want to sell the rematch, you don't want another 2 or 3 rounds of you getting hammered, then you losing, and people going, God, I just don't want to see another one of these. There was enough in this that if they have another fight and Deontay Wilder changes some things around or reveals a problem. Now, this is a touchy subject for me personally, because I hate it when fighters make excuses, but we as fans and pundits or whatever encourage them to make excuses because we want to see another fight and we want a reason to believe. So Deontay Wilder said a lot of things weren't working out for him. It was very vague. I just read about it. Weren't working out for him kind of before the fight. A lot of distractions. It's a huge fight. Huge fights are distracting. They are. You have to deal with interviews and press and all this stuff, and it's not the normal run-of-the-mill few interviews and you're done. There's a lot going on, and that could have taken a lot out of Deontay Wilder. The problem is another fight would be probably not as big, but still huge. It'd be a big fight. So you got to go through it again. And if it was an issue this time around, you're just going to put your foot down more and just limit the amount of press you do, even though you want to sell pay-per-views and make money. So if it was the hype of the fight and the interviews and all this stuff, took something out of Deontay Wilder, he's got to go through it again. If there was something else, once again, I hate excuses, but if you want to sell us on the fight, to say, yeah, he ruptured my eardrum and my balance was gone after round 2, or I had such and such injury, or this thing happened in camp, it would give the fans a reason to go, okay, maybe he wins another one, or at least looks better. So what he comes out with in the next week or two is going to be important in terms of whether or not we see another fight. If it's just, no, he just beat me, it wouldn't make money another fight. It wouldn't be anywhere near as big. So that's a big one. Does he come up with a reason why this fight was so one-sided? If he can, that the fans believe, we might see another one. Of course, Anthony Joshua, everybody wants to see that fight from Fury. But the problem is Joshua has a couple mandatories before then. Could that all get scrapped? Maybe. But the whole point is a title unification fight. And you don't want to get stripped of a title because you didn't fight your mandatory and then they fight for one less belt. That would suck too. So that's the fight everybody wants, but the fights you want don't often happen in boxing, unfortunately. So rarely do fighters with Deontay Wilder's skill set get to the level he got to. Rocky Marciano is probably the best example. He had a great right hand, and that was about it. If you know your boxing history, one of the things you know about Rocky Marciano's reign is it was a really bad era of heavyweights. I read somewhere that the average age for his title defenses was 43 years old. He fought a lot of old guys who were past their prime. So he was really the only one. And even the boxers that could have beaten him in their prime, a Jersey Joe Walcott, a Joe Louis, were just too old to use their boxing skills to beat him. So they fell for the right hand eventually. So that's the best example I can think of. A guy who went to the top with essentially one weapon. George Foreman did it twice on his punching ability. Very flat-footed. Could hit you with either hand and hurt you, but the best description I ever heard of George Foreman is he hit like he was chopping down a tree. So just, and that's kind of, he was a limited fighter, but he could hurt you with both hands and had a decent jab, especially during his second run. So where does Deontay Wilder go from here other than a rematch? That's tough because the aura of invincibility is gone. Are there some good fights from Andy Ruiz Jr.? Certainly a possibility. There might be those getting back up to the top kind of fights. It's all about right now in the next couple months whether or not they activate the automatic rematch clause they had in this contract. Unless Wilder says, I don't want it, he gets another shot at Fury. Can he build himself back up? Sure, that won't make him as much money as fighting Fury, and it's a big risk. If he takes on, let's say, an Andy Ruiz Jr., for example, and gets beat in that fight, it's over. It's over. If he if he takes on Fury again, he might lose again, but it's a huge payday. Huge payday. So there are some pieces to move around to see what happens next. Everybody wants Joshua versus Fury, but there are a couple mandatories ahead of in front of that. I think Fury carries heavyweight boxing for as long as he wants to do it. Now, he said he just wants to do a few more fights and that's it. He's funny, he's engaging, he's quirky, he's very British, and it's very interesting in that his character, as people have gotten to know him, I personally have gotten to know him, not know him personally, but seeing the lead up to this fight and the interviews and stuff, you like him a lot. He's a likable guy, very upfront about mental illness and his thing about I masturbated 7 times a day to get ready for this fight. He's a funny guy. And I think fans really like him, and he can do a lot for the sport for the next couple of years. Deontay Wilder needs to kind of go back to the drawing board and at least get, this may sound funny, but maybe one other punch other than the right hand to do something against Tyson Fury and show us that maybe tactically he has something. So, very entertaining fight. I really enjoyed it, and I'm not a genius for picking Fury. I picked him, but I thought it would go a lot longer than this. This was absolute dominance that I didn't expect, and I don't think anyone expected. But enjoy. I'll be doing Hooker Felder a little bit later when I catch up on things, and appreciate you folks as always.